And I just hate the way like fighting games and stuff are going right now. Like you give me something like drive meter, your drive gauge. So basically these are the life force of the game. Like this is dang near more important than my health bar. And like if I be defensive, I'm losing it. Like I keep blocking, you know, not letting you get any offense in and stuff like that, and it's like getting chipped away. Like, come on, man. Like, I mean, the meta is basically just telling you stop being defensive. Stop. Like, if you're gonna block, if you're gonna like, you know, not be doing too much and all that other stuff, like we gonna punish you for it. And it's just like, why am I being punished for being good? Why am I being punished for strategizing? You know, and that's something I a lot of people are really upset about, and it's understandable. You know, I understand like these offensive games and stuff like that. I understand like you want viewers to be able to visually like it. You want them to be able to see a lot of stuff on the screen. That's what made Marvel so intriguing. It was a lot of stuff just happening on the screen at one time. It's like, ooh, what's that? You know, and then two, you want people to get in and feel like they're doing something. You know, you make stuff kind of like easier to access. You have a bunch of offensive stuff. You have people bunging. You know, I understand that's more like pleasing and stuff to watch. That's more a pleasing way to play and stuff like that. But this is fighting games. It's more to the art of fighting than just running somebody down and being in their face all the time. Like, and this is why I was saying this. Like, man, I'm getting on a heavy tangent. But like that's what I'm saying. Like you taking away play styles, like different play styles. Like people used to play a game and you would have different people playing different ways with different characters and different styles. And it's just like if you're just making a game where the game is basically begging you, forcing you for to just run up in people's faces, like man, I can't just if I'm like a patient player, I just can't play like that. Like if I'm a person that like to set up stuff and trick you into doing like certain things, like how people say Nemo is, a lot of people say he's like a character that they hate watching, but they understand like the type of play style he has. Like, so I'm not really able to do stuff like that anymore. Like, so I just gotta run them down. And if I'm blocking and being patient and stuff like that, I'm just finna lose. Like, I mean, so I can kind of see how I've seen people in the comments basically saying like, you know, well, Arslan Ash had a boring play style. You know, he played like this, so that's probably definitely why he don't like, you know, all this offensive stuff, or he don't like the heat smash. And you have other people saying like, either stop complaining, or quit the game. You know, but it's like you just got to understand where like people are coming from. Like fighting games have changed. Like just the change of where fighting games are going have happened so quickly. It's like, yeah, people can kind of say like, you know, what we saw in 5, you can kind of see it was going a certain way, but it's like, I mean, that's just from 4 to 6 ain't really that long, and just games are evolving so quick. So that's just my random tangent I was gonna go on. Can make that like into a YouTube video. Can Arslan Ash adapt? You know, but got
You
anything
know,
you want to say about that? Because I mean, it's just the way these games are going, man. Like you just you just everybody go play the same way. You just gonna see a bunch of green stuff, people flying towards you and all this. I just constant. It's like, man, don't like. I mean, we seeing Doll Sim now just doing crazy stuff. I'm like, that's not how this character was. Like we making everybody do the same old stuff. Like this ain't what he hit. Like you got it, Devin.
the Arslan Ash thing is very similar to Sanford Kelly when Marvel 3 came out. Um, Sanford Kelly, if anybody remembers this, when the game first dropped, he loathed that game. He did not like Marvel 3. And obviously Sanford Kelly is one of the best fighting game players of all time. He was one of the best MVC2 players of all time. So this guy is no slouch at fighting games. He was really, really good in Street Fighter 4. But yeah, and then people were saying like, oh, you know, you can't be good, or like, are you complaining you're not good at the game? It's like, I don't think it was a fact of like Sanford Kelly couldn't be good at Marvel 3. I just think he didn't like the game compared to MVC2. I mean, MVC2 has stuff like the X Factor. That was like a big thing in the game, like which basically rewarded you just for losing. Which I mean, a lot of games have kind of done it now, like comeback factors, like Street Fighter 4. You took damage, your revenge gauge, ultra meter went up. So that's just become a thing. You know, X Factor is like the more you lose, which is kind of balanced because it's like, okay, the more characters you lose, you have less characters. So let's say you got 1v3. They have X Factor, it kind of levels the playing field, although X Factor was like very busted. I mean, we have characters like Virgil to just kill people in like 2-3 hits in the X Factor. So that's just very interesting, like that whole, because I saw some thumbnail where it was like Arslan Ash like finished 33rd in some tournament, and it was like I forgot what the caption said, but I was like, this is very similar. And again, Arslan Ash is like right now currently probably the best Tekken player on the world in the world. So I think, I think what he says holds some weight because I mean he's right. Like that's really what the game is. And I just thought about it. We talk about these mechanics that these games put in with drive gauge. A lot of these older games were kind of testing this stuff out. I'm talking about like really old games. If you go back and look at Street Fighter Alpha, the series, they had a block gauge, and it was basically the same thing. If you sat there and blocked, you would get your guard would be broken, and then you would take a free combo. This stuff is not egregious as what it is today. Like Street Fighter 6, if you burnt out, now you moves have more. You're more negative on if so you block something. So now every attack that a person does to you like is +4 just by default. If you get driving back in the corner while you're burnt out, you get just opened up. So stuff like that, it's like
And
okay,
then there's just some stuff you can't even stop. Like if you in the corner, if they just heavy punch drive, I mean, you're done. You
yeah,
finna eat it.
yeah. There are certain sequences that you just can't because if you try to jump, your pre-jump frames, you're gonna get hit by a driving pack and you're gonna get splattered into the wall and you're probably gonna die. So stuff like that is like it's a little
Fuzzy.
wonky. Even Guilty Gear. Actually, that was Guilty Gear's thing. Like I don't know if it was in the first Guilty Gear, but I know in like Guilty Gear 2, the negative penalty. And they kept that in like Blaze Blue. Like if you just backdashed a lot, you would lose. You would have like no meter. So it was kind of forcing like, hey, you gotta at least stand your ground or move forward some in some capacity. Or you just gonna have a negative penalty to hold. I don't know if it affected anything else outside of meter game, but yeah, that you had a negative penalty. You just kept backdashing. It's like negative penalty. It's like, hey man, you better get in there and fight. So those games were kind of, I think, like a beta at that time, and now we probably looked at those mechanics and like, hey, let's see how we can make those even more busted. Like Heat is just basically to me, it's like one of those things. Like it's almost just like Drive Rush a little bit and Drive Impact. Every time somebody does a Heat Smash or like the Heat Engage or whatever, they do it, and it's like every time I think I'm far enough away to block it, or make it whiff, it always hits me at the tip. Just I'm like, bro, like why would you make the hitboxes on these moves go so far? So now I'm like trying to think like with my movement, but again, they kind of nerfed the movement. They nerfed KBD in this game, so it's like it's still solid, but it's not Korean backdash or what it was in Tekken 7. Like you can still do it, but it's like I mean, if you even watch Eddie, Eddie had like a crazy Korean backdash, and he still got it somewhat from what I've seen, a little bit that I've seen, but it's nowhere near what it was. Like Eddie was moving, and when you give a person that type of thing, like if a person had it in this game, you could probably make those moves with all day. But now it's like, well, my movement is not as great. I guess I could sidestep it,
Yeah.
but I mean, in Tekken 8, tracking is like really weird. Like tracking is like just wonky. You'll sidestep a move and you're like, it'll hit you, and the person is like whole back is turned to you. He's like, bro, what? Like I saw this when the game first came out. Victor did like his I think it was his stance down 1+2, and he was completely in the opposite direction, and it turned around. I was like, yo, okay, that's a little egregious. Like you tracking shouldn't do that much tracking. But yeah, I don't know, man. I just think that these mechanics are getting a little bold, man. They're getting a little bold. I mean, even you look at Dragon Ball, super dash, super dash, super dash. Like just one button and you just run up on them. And if I'm not mistaken, super dash was like safe if you block us. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, this. Arslan Ash just put out a tweet today, and he was basically like he feels like he's getting better at the game. He can't wait to show how better he's getting because lately a lot of his tournament outs have been not the Arslan Ash that we know. I mean, he kind of be getting, and he's the only one that's been complaining. Knee has come out, knee. like these are basically, if we talk about Tekken 7, basically the gods of the game, you know, and they're coming out and they're saying stuff. So, but and it's a little tougher too when you're somebody who's been in the FGC like for a while, where you can see it was tough seeing like Street Fighter 4 and then 5 came and then you saw like a lot of people fall off, like wasn't playing, wasn't into it, and it's like you're probably gonna start seeing the same thing with 6. You know, as these games start to get more and more, because the way the games were played back then, the games are like totally different now. So it's understandable why the people that you saw back then aren't playing or aren't doing as good in games now, because it's like they're totally different games. It's like, especially like with Street Fighter, it's a different game. Basically every iteration, like yeah, you know, basically, you know, characters kind of like this person's always gonna be a Shoto. You know, you have some stuff that's gonna be in each game, but like the game plays so much differently. It's like a different version of Street Fighter every time. So it would make sense why it would make sense why people don't like really kind of go from, you know, game to game to game. But Tekken was like one of those games to where it's like you could just keep going, keep going. What is it called, Devin? To where it's like somebody like a game is basically this when it's just a new iteration of the game, but everything is basically going to be the same. So you're going to have the same people keep coming back and playing it, because that game is basically it's just the same game, just a newer version. But it's starting to get to a point where a lot of fighting games to where it's like Tekken and Guilty Gear Strive, to where like those skills and stuff that you have basically playing like your game throughout all these years is it's probably gonna be a little bit difficult to grasp on to these games and stuff like that with these newer versions, because you know with like stuff like Heat Smash and Drive Gauge in the games, you're just like, man, like it's gonna be tougher for these people for they get in there and like really get good and stuff like that. But I mean, not saying that people who do win aren't good, because if you could be the best at what they have out right now, that doesn't take away from your skill at all. It's still like killers out here who are
Yeah,
trying to play the game, you know, and they're just not doing as well. But you're able, like Noah the Prodigy, Noah is doing fantastic right now in Street Fighter, and it doesn't take away from his skills at all that people feel like the games are changing and stuff like that. He's able to be the best at what is out right now, or one of the best. Menno RD is able to be one of the best. You know, Angry Bird, there are still people who is able to come and be one of the best before a lot of people. You know, it can be a little bit difficult trying to get used to all this stuff. So, but we didn't talked about this a lot, but got off on that tangent. But I just think like stuff like drive gauge or drive rush, like just make it punishable. I just saw a video of dude like drive rush basically 5 times in a row, and the dude checked him every time, but he just kept doing it because there was really like no punish for it. It was really nothing but a jab. You check it's just a jab, like okay, you just jab me, I'll do it again until he finally hit the dude and got his combo in. It's just like, bro, like make this to where like I keep checking this man over and over again, but I can't really do nothing to make him change his play style. He's just gonna keep doing it because there's no risk for it. There's really no true risk for it. The man did it like 5 times in a row. If it was true risk for it, people wouldn't do that, you know. So like make it at least to where I've been seeing people say at least make it to where you can go into like a punt. They can go into a punishable state, you know, after you check them. But you know, we'll see what they do.